watching Germantown Municipal Television, your source for everything Germantown.
Hello, I am your Superintendent, Jason Manuel. Happy New Year, and thank you for joining us for the January 2018 installment of the Germantown Municipal School District's Spotlight on Excellence. Today, our show will showcase an award-winning app designed by a four-man team of Houston High School students. Then we will visit with Houston High alum Melissa Anderson Sweazy, who is also an award-winning filmmaker and screenwriter. Later in the show, we'll get a behind-the-scenes rehearsal performance from HHS's spring musical production of Curtains, opening in February. But first, we are excited to welcome to the show Houston Middle School science teacher Andrea Starks. Ms. Starks is highly regarded in the state and among her peers for her innovative and energetic teaching strategies. Thank you for being here, Ms. Starks.
Thank you for having me.
Well, tell us a little bit about your history with Germantown Schools. How long have you been part of our system?
I have been here for 4 years.
And where were you before you came to Germantown?
I worked with Shelby County Schools, and I was at Dexter Middle for 6 years.
And what do you teach at Houston Middle, and what did you teach at Dexter?
I've taught everything, it seems like. I teach 8th grade science at Houston Middle. Prior to that, I've taught language arts. I've taught social studies for a little while, little 6th, 7th grade science, you know.
But currently you're teaching?
Just 8th grade
just
science.
8th grade science.
Yes.
But that's not all you teach science, is it?
No, I have one RTI class.
And explain RTI for us, for the people who are in the audience.
Okay.
Response to intervention, and there are different levels. Who do you work with in your RTI classes?
My RTI class is just the enrichment class. So my kids are fine in language arts and in math. So they just need kind of a little extra boost. So we read a book. Our book is called Chew on This.
Okay.
And it's all about food in America. What do we really know about it? Where does it come from? And trying to stay away from like processed foods and things like that. It's got some kind of gruesome things in it, but of course, you know, 8th graders love. So we're reading this book, and we actually are doing a little gardening. We try and do a little cooking. We have some guest speakers. You know, it's actually pretty fun. So
you had an exciting guest speaker who's got a local tie here. Tell us a little bit about, you had a chef come into your classes?
Yeah, his name is Josh Steiner, and he is actually the owner and head chef at Strano's, which is in Cooper Young in Midtown. And he came out and talked. He was awesome. He spoke with the kids about his restaurant and about you know, making smarter food choices, of course, but about, you know, following your passion and getting into things that you really feel strongly about. And he brought the kids actually some different seeds that they could garden themselves. So we have a little mini garden growing in the classroom. We also have a tower growing outside the classroom. So my room looks like, you know, it's a real science experiment right now. But we're actually going to his restaurant tomorrow. He invited us there, and he's gonna do a pasta class with the kids.
Wow.
Yeah, which is gonna be our lunch, so I hope it turns out well.
Y'all are actually making the pasta?
Yeah. So I'm like, I hope you're as good a teacher as you are a chef.
I'm sure they'll be great.
Yeah.
It's the experience. So even if it doesn't come out that well, they will have had fun because they actually made the pasta.
Yeah.
So y'all done so is it just one unit on Chew on This for the whole 9-week semester? How do y'all divide it up? Will you stay on this topic the whole year, or do you switch topics that you cover?
My class is actually a semester long.
Okay.
Now other classes meet for 9 weeks, or sometimes they rotate as needed for like 4.5 weeks at a time, but mine is a semester long. So I've had these kids since the beginning of the school year, and they'll change with the new semester coming.
So
I'll
with
get
the new semester, you'll get a new crop of kids, so they get to experience Chew on This all from scratch again.
Yeah. So it'll be fun.
So tomorrow y'all are actually getting to go make pasta.
Yeah, I'm really excited, and that's all they've been talking about for a while. You know, they're like, when do we get to go see Chef Josh? When do we get to see him? You know, and we actually watched his episode. He's on the Food Network. On, I don't know if you watch Guy's Grocery Games.
I've seen it before, yes.
He's on there. He has an episode, so we got to watch that too. So they really feel connected with him, and we've emailed back and forth a few times. So he seems really excited. The kids are excited. I'm excited. So it should be fun.
What do you think is the biggest learning curve for the kids? So when they're reading this topic going through the unit, what really surprises them the most? What do you think is well, what surprised you, I could ask?
Well, it sounds weird, but have you seen the movie, I think it's called The Founder? It's about McDonald's or something. Well, that was actually based off of our book. So it's this whole big thing about how McDonald's is like the root of all evil, which is crazy. And so our kids are like, we can never have McDonald's again, you know? So that's kind of shocking for them. And so actually when he came in, they were talking about that with him. And, you know, it was cool to see these 8th grade kids really connect with an adult, you know, that's not their teacher, and be able to have these kinds of conversations. So that was actually really cool.
So you talked about your science lessons. So let's talk a little bit about some of your favorite lessons that you do in science.
Okay.
So I think I taught science, and I love the fact you can bring things in from the outside. What are those lessons that you really enjoy in your science classes?
For me, it's definitely when we can do labs and hands-on activities. When I was a kid, science was really hard for me, and I think it's because we didn't really do many hands-on labs. So I try to do at least like one a week. My favorite ones are, let me think, right before Thanksgiving, when we do compounds and mixtures, we make ice cream.
Wow.
So the kids love that, of course. Even when it's cold, they love it. Another one we do that they love, at the beginning of the year when we're teaching independent, dependent variables, we make paper airplanes. So we get to throw those up and down the hall. That's always fun.
And then yours is different too because you incorporate writing into your science lessons also.
Yeah.
And that's different than the multiple choice historical science test you would take. How do you incorporate writing into your lessons?
Well, I feel like a lot of teachers, even science teachers, do it. They just don't realize they have writing in their lessons. So I really try to do, like, at the end of a lab, I usually try and put up a few, like, little sentence stems to get the kids a jumping point to start writing. Because you say writing, they're like, oh, this is science class. We don't write in here. Well, yeah, you do, you know. So I kind of give them a little jumping point at the end of the lesson. You know, something like, today I learned blah, 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 or I realized whatever, X, Y, Z connected this and this way, something like that, you know. And then on tests, of course, you know, we do short answer type things like that. So they end up doing a lot of writing. They don't even realize it. You kind of have to trick them.
Well, I think what makes middle school special, and all schools for that matter, is the fact that it's not just about what you're teaching, what you're doing in the classroom. You do a lot of things outside the classroom. Yeah. And your sweatshirt actually has some significance today. So tell us a little bit about how you're involved in the school culture outside of the classroom.
Yeah, well, I'm a big, I guess, sports person as far as I help out with the boys basketball team. I end up being like the locker room, I guess. You know, they always keep their bag in my room. Today's game day. It's our last home game.
And it's homecoming, isn't it?
It was homecoming last week,
right?
But today's 8th grade recognition.
Oh, 8th grade.
Yeah, so still a big deal. But yeah, no, I am the one who coordinates and makes sure that they have food before their games and things like that. And you know, when they get pizza sauce on their uniform, I can't play. We make sure it gets out before the game, you know, that kind of thing. But no, actually, the boys put together and they got me this shirt, so it's kind of a big deal. So it's really sweet. So I had to wear it in support for the game.
That's special.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being exceptional, whether it's in your science classroom or in the stands or in your RTI classes. We really appreciate what you do for Germantown Municipal School.
Thank you so much.
Before we come back, we are privileged to go behind the scenes to hear some rehearsal music from the cast of Curtains, playing at the Houston Mustang Theater, February 23rd through the 26th. Back after this.
watching Germantown Municipal Television, your source for everything Germantown.
Welcome back. I am Superintendent Jason Manuel. Our school system is proud to showcase exceptional student work happening in AP Computer Science. Recently, 4 students have qualified as national finalists in the Samsung Solve for Tomorrow contest. We are excited to have 2 members of the team here with us today, Stefano Della Rosa and Mandy Merkel. Thank y'all for being here.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about this contest first. How did you find out about it?
So Ms. Brahmer, our computer science teacher, actually this year created a coding club for the first time at the school, and she announced that to all the students in all of her coding classes. But then in the actual club meetings itself, she brought up the idea of some coding competitions here and there, and Samsung happened to be one of them, and there's a couple more different competitions, but Samsung is the one that we chose to do.
So tell us about the contest. What is the contest? What do you have to do to enter into the contest? And you can take it.
We apply STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, like concepts to the actual program. So what we're doing for ours is helping like the animal shelters and their overpopulation, and we're going to use technology to do so.
To help solve that. So did y'all, how many people are in your group? There are 4 in the introduction that we talked about. How did y'all choose your groups?
It just happened to be friends in our classes.
And so I said, hey, we've got an idea, we want to be in a group together?
Yes.
So who came up with the idea? Did y'all kind of brainstorm it, or who has a connection to the animal shelter?
It's kind of funny because I don't want to take all the credit, but I came up with the idea, and it just so happened that I got a new puppy over the summer, and I would hate to see something like that happen to other animals, getting overpopulated, and maybe even having to get put down because of overpopulation in the animal shelters.
So the program that you talked about, really helping the animal community, what does it do? So y'all submitted this idea to the contest. What's your idea?
So our idea is an app that'll create a profile for all the animals in the animal shelters and humane societies, and it'll send the users notifications when they receive a new animal, and so they can look at the profile and see like, oh, it's this type of dog, it's this old, it has this shots, and so then it just gives the users a better way of getting to know what animals are actually at the animal shelter, and instead of having to drive out all the way to all these animal shelters.
Oh, that's exciting. So it's almost like, what is it, CarMax, or those sites you can, auto trader, you can go and say, I want a newer car, and I want it to be red. So you can choose like the type of animal, the size of the animal, the age of the animal, and see all those facets. That's exciting.
Yeah.
So what are the steps? So you came up with this idea. What did y'all then have to do?
So we had to like actually describe like the activities, what we're gonna do to like promote the idea. So if we now we're state finalists, so if we make it past like the state, then we actually get to use the equipment that Samsung provides us to record our idea.
Oh, that's exciting. So there are actually hundreds of entries,
Yes.
and it's by state. And y'all are one of the finalists. You know how many finalists there were left?
Overall, there were 3,000 nationwide entries, and I think there's 5 finalists per state.
Oh, that's exciting. And so when do you find out next?
Wednesday. This
Wednesday. And so next steps, you said there'll be recording devices from Samsung?
Yes.
And you'll have to make a video or a presentation. What will you have to make for them?
So we're doing like our video. We're gonna go to the animal shelter and like talk to the people there and like talk to them about like fostering options as well. And then we're gonna record some dogs and everything. It's gonna be fun.
So if you did get chosen, and I really hope you do, I think y'all have got an incredible idea that will really help animals. What'll be the next step then? So if they really like your video commercial that you film, what'll be the next steps after that?
So after our video submission, if we make it to the next stage after that, then we'll actually begin coding our idea and be able to present it to them there.
And so will this actually end in a real app that people could get to use? Is there actually a product at the end of the line?
If we win the national competition, then we actually get to work with the Samsung developers, and they'll help us code our app. But I think if we don't win the competition, that I'll that I think our team could still code.
You
the
could
app.
still do something that
Yeah.
would be. So you talked about that y'all could still code it even if you didn't win this competition. Obviously, y'all both must have an interest in coding or computers to get you into this.
Yes.
So tell us how did you get into this coding program? What made you join this club? Are there classes you're taking that really promote it?
So my sophomore year, I got introduced to Ms. Brommer's AP Computer Science class because my math teacher actually gave us out leaflets saying, join this class and you will be able to create an app. And I have a strong interest in apps and stuff and like future technology and stuff like that. So that's what got me into taking her classes. And junior year, I took AP Computer Science Principles. And then this year, we're taking AP Computer Science.
What about you, Miss Merkel? What got you into the computer sciences?
I really like video games and that kind of stuff. So just like the idea of like coding something like that or like starting like.
And how to make it from scratch?
Yeah, I just was interested in that. So my junior year as well, I joined AP Computer Science Principles, and that was such a fun class. So I went to the next step and took Coding 2 Honors, which is what I'm in right now.
So you're in Coding 2 Honors and you're in AP
Computer Science.
Computer Science. Are y'all planning on continuing this for careers, or is this something that you're just passionate about right now?
I actually do want to continue studying in college in computer science field. I'd love to also either create apps or create video games as a career.
What about you?
And then I'm interested in the graphic design of the part of it and the information, so I'm going to study computer and information sciences in college. So.
Well, I'm excited to see what's going to happen with the Samsung, and I'm sure that even if y'all don't win this contest, and I think you will, it sounds like you've got an incredible idea that y'all can make it yourselves. And this may be just your first step that y'all create a business, and maybe you're already on that path to do something on your own. I think what's special about having students on the show is that it's not just the classes you take, that y'all are well-rounded, that there are other things that you're interested in. So tell us a little bit about those other things that you do outside of computer classes. So Stefano, is there anything that you participate in besides Ms. Brommer's classes?
Yes, I have been on soccer varsity team for 4 years.
What about you, Ms. Merkel? Are there any clubs or activities that you're involved with?
I'm actually the president of the DECA organization.
So explain DECA, explain DECA to people.
It's like a club for like business people. You do role plays and you take tests based off of like business ethics and principles and all that.
And you actually go and compete in the DECA organization.
We actually have our competition coming up. I want to say in March is when regionals is, and then.
Well, I cannot wait to see what both of you are going to choose to do in your future careers, and thank you for being examples of what it means to be an incredible student at Houston and in Germantown schools.
Thank you. When
we come back, we have an alumni spotlight who was inspired by a teacher at Houston High School to become a screenwriter and filmmaker. Back in a bit.
Right, mi cariño. So like I said, everything I learned about cooking, I learned from Grandma's empanadas. Shall we go again?
Yep.
Mix the beef with the onions with the peppers with the paprika with the garlic with the oregano with the cumin. Got it?
Got it.
Throw in the olives, stir, season, stir again, pour out the flour, roll out the dough, make a circle, drop in a fistful of filling, fold over, press down, and ta-da!
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush is easier, and it could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain.
Hey, look, it's those guys. Are you good to drive?
I'm fine.
How many did you have?
I should be fine.
You should be.
Go and step out of the vehicle for me.
See ya, buddy. Good luck. So turns out, buzz driving and drunk driving, they're the same thing, and it costs around $10,000. So not worth it.
You are watching Germantown Municipal Television, your source for everything Germantown.
Welcome back. I am Superintendent Jason Manuel. You're watching GMSD Spotlight on Excellence. I want to spend our last moments highlighting a graduate of Houston High School and our alumni spotlight. With me today is Melissa Anderson Sweazy, a TEDx speaker on free-range parenting, and an award-winning filmmaker and writer. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Well, you know, we had students on before the segment that you actually came on. I think it's exciting to see the whole spectrum of how Houston has impacted your life and lessons that you could take with you that really help you in everything that you do. So thank you for coming back to be with us.
Oh, thank you.
So tell us a little bit about your time at Houston. You were actually in the first graduating class?
First graduating class.
So that was a little bit different because y'all didn't have anyone older than you in the school?
We were seniors every year. We were always the oldest class, so that didn't prepare me really, realistically, for college, but we loved it.
Because you were always the oldest ones in the
Yes,
building.
yeah.
So you took an interest in the theater and in the TV production when you were here at Houston. Tell us a little bit about what you did here while you were a Houston High School student.
Well, the TV production wasn't like the room we're sitting in today. We literally had like what I hear is now the janitor's office, but we would sit and it was live, and they'd hand you slips of paper, and you would just have to deliver whatever they said.
Right.
But there was a speech class, which was a really, really popular class that kind of evolved into acting and theater, and I loved my time. It was Mr. Daniel that was who taught those classes.
He was here actually when I came here in '95, so he was an incredible teacher. So tell us a little bit about some of those lessons that you learned from Mr. Daniel. How do you think that he prepared you? And obviously he can't give you all the tools that you need to become exceptional like you are. Tell us some of those things that you learned from his classes.
Well, I learned that acting takes a tremendous amount of courage and vulnerability, which is why I think I enjoy directing,
Right.
because it's a lot easier to be on the other side of that. And yeah, just learning poise and trust in your fellow students. He really engendered a love of directing because I think it was my senior year that there was 4 students and we were all directing one-act plays.
Wow.
So that was my first
with
stab at directing, and it was wonderful.
So now you have taken that on, and you actually are director now and also a screenwriter. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing with some of the skills you learned while you were at Houston.
Oh, sure. So I had a brief foray out in Los Angeles, trying to make it as a screenwriter and director, and came back to Memphis and wasn't exactly sure if I was going to be able to continue that, but to my surprise, we have a really wonderful independent film community here. So I've started making my own short films, making documentaries, and continuing to write.
And you've had some success. You've actually won the Memphis Indie Award, is that correct? Tell us a little bit about the award.
We just finished a film called Good Grief. It's a feature documentary about the Kemmons Wilson Center for Good Grief that's based in Collierville.
Right.
So we spent, over the course of 2 years, following families that were going through the center and spending time with the kids going through the camps that they offer. And so the film debuted at the Indie Memphis Film Festival, and it won the jury prize for Best Feature and also the Audience Award. So we were thrilled.
So you're really touching people with what you're making. So you're not only a screenwriter and director, you also did a TEDx talk, is that correct?
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about free-range parenting. Is that the correct title?
Yes, yeah, it was really exciting. So I'm a mom. I have 2 young kids, and actually the first film that I made is called John's Farm, and it's about that. It's about kind of the modern parent's dilemma on wanting your kid to be able to grow up how we did, that we were able to run around and have that freedom, and I think that's what defined our childhoods. And then there's that struggle of, do you let your own child have that freedom? And so that's what the TEDx talk was about, just that tension between wanting to give your child
the same child.
Yeah, but just with our 24-hour news cycle, just the idea that there's danger lurking around every corner. You feel that mortal terror. If you let your kid outside, is something terrible going to happen?
And that was hard because when I grew up, I would hop on my bike and I was like, be home by dark. That was the rule.
Yeah.
So I was out there playing. We don't allow our children to do that now, or it's not the same.
No.
Not the same experience. So you've had some success. You talk about helicopter parents. So how do you define a helicopter parent in your talk and in your production?
Oh gosh. So in the movie, our helicopter parent faces this dilemma as, does he let his kid go across this bridge and play, and the father thinks he sees something in the woods, and so he has that, like, do I go rescue my kid or not?
Right.
And on a much less dramatic scale, it's just that day to day. it's trust. It is how do we expect our kids to become independent and able to make decisions for themselves if we don't give them the opportunity to have those experiences.
Right. Oh, that's exciting. So what advice would you give our students now who want to go into this type of career? Because you obviously said LA is a hard place to really find your way, but you did find a community here that's really supportive, and you can grow in your craft here.
Yeah, I think I would say there is really no right answer. LA was wonderful, and I think since I've been there, times have changed that. It's never been easier in some respects because there are not as many gatekeepers to get your material to people who can produce it. But that said, it's never been easier to make your own content. They have phones now, you have editing software that is on your computer. So at this point, you kind of have no excuse. Like if you want to make a movie, go talk to your friends, write something yourself, just start making content and stop waiting for someone to come find you. You know, you go make your own movie.
And I think you've got some tastes that are probably similar to mine. I heard that you actually want to do your own horror,
yes,
direct your own horror. And I think that's exciting for me because when you really think about women in horror films, they're not necessarily the victims. There's always that lead heroine that you see in the story, and I think that's special. So what drew you into horror movies? What was your connection?
Oh gosh, you know, it's funny. It was, for me, it was a bonding experience with my dad because he grew up loving horror movies. And I think to his delight, his oldest daughter also is into scary movies. So it was fun for us to bond over that. And it's just that safe scare.
Yes, that thrill.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much for being here with us. And I hope that our students can see what you have done with what you learned at Houston, and they can mirror what you're doing and excel just like you have.
Oh, thank you.
Well, that's all we have time for on this month's Spotlight on Excellence. If you'd like more information about this or any other show on Germantown Municipal Television, visit us on our website at www.gmtvonline.org. Until next time, this has been Superintendent Jason Manuel for this month's installment of the Germantown Municipal School District's Spotlight on Excellence. And then we have to sit here for a little bit. And you know what's